Okay, this pen, Schaefer pen, is filled with this carbon ink, and it seems to be doing okay. And no, what's wrong? Look, for God's sake. I spoke too soon. Okay, how am I going to be able to, let's pretend for a second that I like this ink, and this is the only, I'm on a desert island and the only ink I have is gallons of this carbon ink, which flows fine if I draw like this. If I draw like this, it skips, as you can see. So, am I going to just live with the skipping? I mean, that's one possibility. Okay, so it's like, you know, you walk in shoes that are just a little tiny bit too tight, and they're the only shoes you have, and the way to wherever you want to go is, the road is strewn with hot coals, so you don't have any choice but to wear the only shoes you have to go to the grocery store past these hot coals, and you're stuck. So if I was stuck having to use this pen, I can either live with the skipping and just pretend that's the best I can do, you know, walk over these coals really, really slowly and on the way to the store and wincing every minute as I do it, or I can learn to walk differently. Maybe on tiptoe. Maybe that's the only way I can do it. So how can I decide? How can I draw? How can I change my drawing technique to be able to deal with this pen? This is how I do it. I have a speed limit. I can only go, even though I have a Ferrari, I can only go, I'm in a school zone with a bunch of jaywalking children who, according to Darwin, should be run over and put out of our misery, but because of laws about things like that, we now have to go really, really slow. And I guess if this is the way I drew, I'd be happy with this ink. Most of the time. Some of the time. All of the time. I'd be happy with this ink if I drew slowly. Go slow, deaf child. I always thought that was, you know, it was that sign, go slow, deaf child, was aimed at the deaf child, like not to the drivers in the car, but to the actual child, because that's what it sounds like. You know, go west, young man, go slow, deaf child. I thought that was rather rude. So, go slow, pen. See, it skips here when I go fast, so let's try to redeem this bug. Okay, I'm still going too fast. The crossing guard, look, now you made me, he doesn't have a thorax. How did that happen? See what happens when I have to go slow. No, I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm sorry that I don't mean to be picking on, I'm not picking on deaf children, or deaf adults for that matter. I'm not picking on, it seemed like a funny sign. Of course, I know that it's meant to be for the drivers. I was just thinking, you know, I've never seen a sign that says "Go slow, blind child." Now maybe this sign is meant for deaf children, because they don't have ones for blind children, because of course they couldn't see the sign. I don't know. I'm confused. I imagine I'm going to get lots of hate mail for even talking about this subject, but I just don't. Okay, let's get back to the point. The point is about this ink. I think here's I do actually have something to say that is important for all adults and all children everywhere with respect to this ink. If you are going to use this ink in a fountain pen, my advice would be the following. Use a crappy pen, a pen that has a really nice nib, as nice a nib as you want to use, because I think the gold nib can be cleaned, even if it is completely encrustified in this awful ink. And so the nib, any nib that you want to use would be probably okay. Probably, I guess so, I'll just say it. It'll probably be okay if you use any nib you want. The feed, on the other hand, the thing down here, which delivers the ink to the nib, you should have that. It has to do two things. First of all, it has to be relatively easy to clean. This one, with all of its little fins, come on, get in focus, not my lifeline there. All those little fins are going to get clogged with this awful ink. So I would use a Waterman feed, Waterman spoon feed, that is very, you know, there's not a lot of fins. It's a very simple feed. So it's easy to clean. I also might suggest having a pen, maybe having the nib placed in a pen that maybe is have it be a little bit loose. Maybe the feed is just a tad loose in the pen, just so you can easily take it out to clean it. Because if it's a tight fit, it's only going to get tighter with this crud around it, and you're going to have problems. So I'd make the nib and the feed be a little loose so that you can take them out and clean them. Another pen that might be good would be an Eversharp Skyline pen, even though the bottom ones would maybe get clogged, which isn't really that important, but the top part would be easy to clean. So that would be my advice. If you want to use carbon ink, and the reason you're using this ink in the first place is to be able to do ink washes on top of it. And I'm just using dirty water here. It starts out sort of gray like this, but you'll see that it does have a tone to it, but the tone is not the ink tone, it's the tone of the dirty water. These don't have enough ink capacity. Where's my big brush? That's a big brush. Let's see what this does. So that would be my advice. Use a pen that you can take apart easily without damage, and so you can clean it. And then when you clean it, hopefully you know, you can then refill it. And I don't know if I would clean it every single time, but maybe every third time. And the best thing to do, of course, is to use the pen a lot, but you know, you have to sleep and you have to get your groceries and put on your shoes and walk over those coals slowly on tiptoe or whatever works. And I don't know whether I like this. You know, I don't do this kind of, as you can tell by looking at the way I'm drawing this, filling it in with paint. This is not my strong suit. So I mainly got this ink so that I could review it for you. So I could give advice on whether you should use this ink. And I think you can, with that caveat, with those, you know, use a pen that isn't too rare. Use a pen that you can easily take apart, and you might be okay with it. I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not making this drawing any better by doing this, by continuing to do this. Some of these let me just show you what I did yesterday using just the ink that was in regular fountain pens. Here. See? This just has regular fountain pen ink. So I drew very, very quickly, very fine, delicate lines, and then I added ink wash, which caused the fine lines to just deteriorate and turn into an ink wash. And my cat's about to join me. Kitty? Orca? Orca can't just let us be. He has to get into our face. Don't you, Kitty? No, his path is trapped. It's blocked. He's trapped. So anyway, good luck with the carbon ink. Remember what I told you. A pen that you don't really care about has a nice nib, but you can easily take apart without worry about breaking it when you're taking it apart. And clean it often. Thank you.